Have you ever felt like your brain was a little off because of all the dieting that you've done in the past? Or have you ever found yourself hyperfixating in on food? I'm going to talk about 2 ways that diets cause brain damage. I'm going to get right into it. Hello, welcome sisters to the Body Ally podcast, where we learn how to stop battling with our bodies and with food from a faith-based approach. We learn instead how to be an ally with our bodies, partnering with our bodies and accepting them as the gift that God intended. Learning how to pursue health goals, not in an effort to prove value, but as an act of love. I am Carrie Nygaard, your host. All right, so ladies, I have done this whole helping women food and body struggles for a while now. I have helped thousands of women. I have gone through this process myself. An extensive process that lasted years between me and God and mentors and figuring it out. And I want to tell you that there are 2 ways. There's lots of ways, but I can isolate it down to 2 ways in which our brain, I wouldn't say it's full on damage, not the way we think in terms of brain damage. Now, I titled this podcast 2 ways in which dieting causes brain damage. Is this the real term of brain damage, as in there was blunt trauma or bleeding on your brain? No, that's not what I'm talking about. But there are 2 ways in which it really causes issues for us as women in this life. And there's 2 of them that I'm going to talk about today. These are 2 really big ones. The first one is something called the survival switch. Now, I've talked about this on a previous podcast, and other podcasts that I've done. The survival switch is what I call it. What you need to realize is that your brain is hardwired for survival. And I mean, that is your automated subconscious brain's full focus, is you surviving. The issue is that your brain does this in some nonsensical ways. It doesn't have the ability to reason. And so because your brain's so hyperfixated in on survival, when you restrict caloric intake, it causes issues such as hyperfixation in on food, such as not trusting yourself around food, such as overeating food, binging, then restricting, all day grazing, hoarding food, feeling like food is scarce and that you can't share it. People think that these are the problems. Women think, I'm broken, that I do this, what's wrong with me? And there's nothing wrong with you. What's wrong is that you were born into a society that celebrates dieting and says that dieting is the way to make yourself more valuable. This idea trips the survival switch in your brain. When you bring scarcity, this idea of scarcity or restriction around something that is essential for your survival, it flips a survival response in your brain that then causes biologically your brain to hyperfixate it on food. Try to get food while you can. Eat it now because it may not be allowed tomorrow. Feast famine type mentality. So dieting causes quote unquote brain damage, or rather ill effects to your brain by 1, triggering the survival response in your brain. And again, let me reiterate, is that the things we think are the problem are actually the symptoms of the survival switch being flipped. It is absolutely possible to reset the survival switch and have it come down so that you're not experiencing out of control behaviors around food, distrusting yourself around food, obsessive thinking about food. We can reset the survival switch so that you're not having those symptoms, but realize that those are symptoms and the actual core problem comes back to that survival switch being flipped. Dieting is not compatible with the hardwired survival instincts of your brain. I've said it before, said it lots before, and I just said it again. Okay, the second way that dieting causes damage in your mind, the way it responds in your mind, is something. So the second way is DTL. What is DTL? It's dieting thought loops. Your brain goes to work trying to reaffirm what it already believes and what it already does. The way that works is, for example, if you have a belief about yourself, then your brain is going to only filter to your awareness the ways in which will reaffirm that belief about yourself. For example, and this works in all areas of life. I always tell my kids, be careful what you tell yourself about who you are, because your brain will make it true. Your subconscious brain works for your higher brain. It goes to work trying to make whatever you consciously tell your brain to be true. So if you tell yourself, I'm stupid, or I'm dumb, or whatever it is, your lower brain will only show you evidence that that is true. And all it takes is one comment from someone somewhere or one idea where you self-identify as something, and then your brain starts to go to work gathering evidence to believe that's true, and then that thought grows roots. It takes root in your brain and it becomes a belief or your identity about yourself. When my kids say certain things about themselves, I'll say, "Ooh, careful. Is that what you want to teach yourself about who you are? Don't teach your brain that that's who you are, or it will make it true." Only feed your thoughts the things that you desire to be true. This is all throughout Scripture, right? Think on the things that are virtuous, lovely, and of good report, right? So when we think on these things that are positive, that they will take root and then produce good fruit. This is really important to know. Let me take something that's not food and body related so you can maybe see it a little clearer, and then I'll take something that's food related identity-wise and show you how this works out. So with a thought loop, let's take, for example, the dating world. Okay, I knew I had a friend growing up who didn't get married till much later in life. And this person said to me, dating is so hard, the girls don't like me. So if you tell yourself that it's hard and that you're not liked, if you verbally or internally tell yourself that, then subconsciously your brain is going to work to make that true. It's called your RAS. This is the part of your brain that only filters evidence through to your consciousness that agrees with what you've already told it. So for this person, because they said this belief or said this thought to themselves and allowed it to grow roots and become a belief, when they thought in terms of dieting is hard, I'm not very well liked by girls, then it created a feeling. And the feeling was probably hopelessness, something like that. And when this person felt hopeless, the actions they took from that is that they had a lot of inaction. They didn't put themselves out there to be able to meet people. Why? Because dieting's hard and they're not well liked. They believe that. So they then act in accordance with that. Do you see that? And when you act that way, you then create results that reaffirm the belief that dieting is hard and that you're not well liked. Why? Because you're not doing the things to get out there to make it work for you. Be careful what you tell yourself about yourself. Now, limiting beliefs are what we call these things. Your brain, when you diet, starts to implement lots of thoughts about food because of that survival response being flipped, such as, I can't control myself around food. Let's say you have an experience from the survival switch being flipped, and you think, I can't control myself around food because you had a binge or an overeating episode. So you told yourself an affirmation that is going to take root. I can't control myself around food. So if you say that out loud, what's the emotion that's going to come with that? Probably could be hopelessness again. It could also be despair. It also could be a lack of awareness, like a lack of mindfulness. Because if you can't control yourself around food, then why even try? So if you think in terms of giving up, like defeat, I can't control myself around food. And when you think that, you feel defeat. And when you feel defeated, what actions do you take from defeat? Is you don't even try, or you try really hard to be good, but you try so hard that you create a pendulum effect where you try really hard, but it's so far outside of what your norm is that the pendulum swings the other way and you end up in a restrict and binge pattern, which then continues to reaffirm the idea and the internal belief of, I can't control myself around food. So you will go to work, your brain will go to work, making true for yourself whatever you choose to believe about yourself. Now, here's the tricky thing, is that as you continue, because of diet mentality, other thoughts that come up is, oh, I overate, now I have to exercise to keep it off. Or I exercise so that I can earn the ability to eat. I hear this kind of thing all the time. I worked out today so I can eat. What? No, exercise is great for your body and you don't have to earn eating. You're human. You have a body. You need to feed your body, right? Your body's always with you until the day you die. So let's take care of her, whether you exercise or not. These two things are not connected. One does not earn the other. But when you think in those terms and you exercise, then you think in terms that food is something that needs to be earned. And when you think food needs to be earned, then you start to think in terms of more dieting loops, around and around and around, restricting, then binging, restricting, then overeating. Do you see how these thoughts create more of themselves? So dieting causes damage in your life because of the way your brain is wired. Your brain is hardwired for survival, and dieting triggers the survival response in your brain. Your brain also goes to work making true whatever you tell it. And in diet mentality, we pick up a whole lot of identifying phrases about ourselves because of that survival response being flipped. We think the symptoms are a character flaw when really they're symptoms of biology not being compatible with the whole idea of dieting. And round, these thought loops are reaffirmed as you continue to think them. Now, how do you fix that? Well, there's lots of ways you fix these things. First is you stop dieting. And then maybe you join with me in my program of faith-based women to learn how to no longer struggle with food and with your body so you can reach your health goals without diet mentality. Remember, this is the Body Ally podcast. Why? Because this is the Body Ally movement. What's the Body Ally movement about? It's about learning to pursue your health goals, not in a pursuit of value, but as an act of love. Let me go through the different statements of the Body Ally movement. I am not my body. She is my vessel. I commit to no longer battle with her. I accept my body as the gift that God intended. I am done measuring my worth by numbers, sizes, or worldly standards. I honor and align myself with my body's wisdom. I pursue health as an act of love, not as proof of value. I choose love over punishment, grace over grind. I reclaim the partnership with my divine body. I am an ally with her. So realize that part of being an ally with your body is also understanding how your brain is wired and operates, and to work within that framework so you're being brain friendly, so you're not triggering the survival response, so you're not reaffirming loops that just produce more of the same, that don't produce any good fruit or any result, desirable result. Anytime you have an unintended result in your life, it's because you're lacking awareness around that area in your life. So anytime you want a different result with your behaviors around food, it's because you're lacking awareness of what's going on in your relationship around food. And your experience with food is an accumulation of the quality of your thoughts in relation to it and yourself. Let me say that again. The quality of your experience in your relationship with food is a conglomeration of your thoughts and that you choose to think about food. It's only as good as the quality of those thoughts. And when you diet, it triggers the survival response in your brain. And then you start to think in terms of, you have all these symptoms, right, that are triggered that you think are character flaws. And then you start to think things about yourself like, I just can't control myself around food. I'm out of control with food. There's something wrong with me. When will I ever get it together, right? These thoughts. I just love food. I can't control myself. I can't stop eating. All of these different thoughts, I know you have reason to believe them to be true, but the reasoning, all the evidence your brain is getting for believing that comes from the survival switch being flipped in your brain due to your brain thinking that something that's essential for survival is limited. Remember, your lower brain does not have the ability to reason. And so when you limit food, or even when you just think about limiting food, if you just think I should go off sugar and then all of a sudden you can't stop thinking about sugar, it's that same effect going on in your brain. So what I invite you to do is to learn more. Click on some of the links in the description below. Come to one of my free webinars or one of my free workshops, live workshops. Listen to more of my podcasts. Come learn more. Come join with me and learn how to no longer struggle with your body or with food. It is absolutely possible, and it comes from learning a few basic things about your brain, leveraging that to your benefit, and being in a deep partnership, being aligned and being an ally with your body the way God intended it to be. Thank you so much, ladies. And remember that you are not put out here on this earth to struggle or to try to earn your worth by changing the shape of your body. You were sent here to create, to fulfill your plan for your life that God has for you that wouldn't be possible without your God-given gift, your body. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, all the things. Share this podcast, leave reviews. When you do that, it allows this podcast to be seen by the algorithms, right, and by AI, and to be sent out to other people. So do your part to spread the movement, the Body Ally movement, to be a partner with our body and to understand our brains rather than being at the effect of the survival responses of our brains. All right, ladies, thank you so much. Bye-bye.